Hi, I'm Charley Martinez, and we're back for the second round of the Meat Market Minutes. And today we're going to cover beef, and Dr. Andrew Griffith from UT is going to be discussing the beef side of things. Dr. Griffith?
Thank you, Charlie. I appreciate it. I'm glad to be here and talk about beef on the Meat Market Minute. I think since we're thinking about the meat, I'm just going to start with slaughter and move towards the end of the chain. We try to avoid the production side of this, but slaughter is the beginning of this meat situation. And so far, year to date, heifer slaughter's down 3.9%, steers down 7.8%, but beef cows are up 1.8%. Now, realizing that prior to coronavirus, heifer and steer slaughter were up compared to a year ago pretty significantly, and beef cow slaughter was tremendously up compared to a year ago levels until the coronavirus situation hit. And then when this hit, we saw a lot of facilities shut down or slow chain speed or just simply closed for a long enough time to clean facilities. And that's the situation we've got in. But we have started to see slaughter start to pick back up. I would say last week was probably around 90% of what it was prior to the coronavirus hitting. So if we took last week's slaughter rate, it would have been about 90% of the weekly average in the first two to 3 months of the year. So we're picking up back up very, very quickly. Hopefully that will maintain to start keep cattle moving through the system. What that has done to production, I've got beef, pork, and broiler production all up here, mainly just so it's not to steal thunder from anybody else in a Meat Market Minute. It's mainly to show the difference between beef and what pork and broiler production has done, because they were all significantly up prior to coronavirus, but beef production is still down nearly 4% year to date, whereas pork production and broiler production are actually above year-ago levels, even though we had that slowdown in both pork and broiler industries. Now, it doesn't matter what meat you're talking about as far as red meat's concerned. As soon as April hit, coronavirus was the hot topic, and it's, we always develop new terms in this country, and we're now to social distancing and quarantining. They're the new it terms. We'll be using social distancing for the next 30 years, and thinking that's some cool term to use. But as soon as we did that kind of stuff, we decided to go from essentially $2.25 a pound to $4.50 a pound. We literally doubled box beef cutout values, and that's just a composite price of all the cuts that make up the carcass. And so this gets us down to a carcass base price, and from a meat's perspective. And now we've started to decline slightly. We're around $3.75 or so last week. I expect that price to continue to decline. Do I think it's going to find some support somewhere? Yes, it will find some support. I don't think it's going to drop to $2.50 overnight. But we will see these beef prices start to keep on declining. We are in as far as a meat perspective, we're at the prime time for beef demand. We just passed the Memorial Day holiday a week or two ago, and the grilling season is hot on. We're just in the hotbed of the grilling season. And the issue with that is going to be, yes, we have consumers that want to get out and grill, but can they afford the products that they really want, given that some of them may be unemployed now, or some of them may have missed several paychecks, and even though they're back at work. So we'll see how that plays out. But let's look at some individual cuts. Ribeye, wholesale ribeye prices, we're not talking about doubling, but we did see nearly a pre-coronavirus increase of about 33%. Well, I guess technically it'd be nearly 50% if you look at it from the backwards way. But we're talking about a 50% increase in wholesale beef ribeye prices, and they have not started to decline at all. Those types of products are in high demand when it comes to grilling. Chuck prices have escalated tremendously. We're talking about nearly a 200% type increase in chuck prices, and a lot of that came from the ground beef demand. I can show you round prices as well. Same thing. We're talking about, you go into the grocery store and you're looking and you see just ground beef, which, would be a lot of trimming type stuff. But then you see round ground, and then you see chuck ground. And so those are all going to have a slightly different price to some degree. I would say a lot of people right now are probably seeing $7 to $9 ground beef prices. That's at least what we've seen in local grocery stores. You might find it cheaper and you might find it more expensive depending on where you are. But we've seen rounds and chucks really escalate in price, and a lot of that is because they were going to grind. It's just the nature that we're in and the environment that we're in. People like ground beef, and people know what to do with ground beef. They don't always know what to do with all these other cuts, just because they're not familiar with the preparation of those cuts. That goes into our wholesale boneless beef prices. I mentioned at the very beginning, beef cow slaughter. That's where most of our fresh 9% lean beef is coming from. We wonder, there's a lot of people that would say that cull cow prices were well supported, and they were well supported even during coronavirus because of the fact of needing the 90% lean beef for ground product. Those prices are still very strong on those cattle because we have very, very strong 9% lean prices. I don't know that, these prices will finally fall off of these highs, but when that happens is going to be hard to determine, because ground beef is going to stay in strong demand because people still want meat. They still want beef, and it may be ground product is where most of our consumption comes from. And then just to briefly show the 50% lean beef, this comes from our trim off of fat cattle. We generally have about 50% lean, 50% meat, and that product is separated to make a very, very lean product. And so we saw those prices just, essentially they were giving it away pre-coronavirus. That sounds terrible, but when you're down in the 60s, $60 level, it almost feels like you're giving that stuff away. But it does have a high value, and it gives us a good idea of where demand for ground beef is as it moves. So with that, I'll stop sharing my screen, but just the final comment is, the beef market prices are very, very strong. The retail price of beef, I didn't institute any of that into the slide set, but retail prices are going to continue to escalate. Even when wholesale prices turn around, we're going to see really, really strong retail prices on beef because these folks have to make up some of the losses that they may have occurred in the past month or two.
That was going to be my question. You beat me to the punch, Andrew. I was going to ask, what can people expect at the case at the grocery store? Does anybody else have any questions since Andrew jumped the gun and got mine?
Andrew, I've got one. So you talked about beef, beef production for the year is actually still up a little bit because of that spike pre-COVID. And the other meats didn't see that as much. Or it's down. I'm sorry, I'm backwards here on a beef is down a little bit, but the other ones are still up a little bit. What do you think is the big driver behind why beef is different than pork and poultry? Why beef is down still?
I think the simple answer to that is the vertical integration of the two other meats that we looked at, is with the poultry and the pork. They have, when you have such a vertically integrated system, they can streamline things. Those processors have a little more skin in the game on that as well, and so they want to move those products through. And so, we do realize that there are packers that own some cattle, but it's not to near the degree. And so that's what I would think was driving that. At least that's what my perception has been.
Anybody else? All right. Well, thank you to the viewer for watching this little short episode on the beef side for the Meat Market Minute. Thank you to Andrew. And we hope you enjoyed it and hope you find it useful. And we hope that you look around and look at the other ones. Thank you.